Well, thank you for joining us once again as we go through the book by Skye Jethani, What If Jesus Was Serious? We're just going to take a little moment here to discuss chapter 8, which is basically, if Jesus was serious, then our image isn't everything. And this is just really sort of taking out specifically, even though you can really connect a lot of this beginning of chapter 5 of Matthew, it's really kind of pinpointing the blessed are the pure of heart, for they will see God. And so one of the things that actually jumped out at me was not necessarily surprise, but I think when there was numbers to it, added a huge surprise. And that was just basically the approximate number of ads that we see in a day. And the number that's actually in the book is actually from 2006, even though the book is only from last year. The numbers that he gave for this are from 2006, and it's estimated close to about $5,000 ads a day. And to think that's probably increased.
And I can imagine today it's a lot more than that.
Well, if we go on the idea that it actually said, like, if it was 500 ads a day in the 70s, you jump, 30 years, and we're at 5,000, and we've just, it's got to be way more than that now. And so that's...
Yeah, I would say. And I think
it's, again, not surprising, but when you put a number like that to it.
Yeah. And marketers are smart, right? They're trying to get us to buy things. And so they're constantly trying to get us to upgrade our image, right? So we need the latest
Absolutely.
of this or the newest of that. And we aren't complete, or we're not going to have the image that everybody else has if we don't upgrade and buy those products. And I think that can lead to some serious problems.
Well, discontentment. I mean, we can be envious.
Yep.
And it really does. It really feeds into, I think, basically a human condition that our external image is all important, because how others see us is important quite often to a lot of us.
Yeah, well, if we're honest, most of us, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So really, in what's going on here is, Jesus is really pointing to the inward reality, and I think really just sort of spinning a lot of things on its head, because at that time, I mean, he's really playing off sort of the issues that have been around the religious leaders, that obviously the idea of who sees God would have been definitely people like that. Mm-hmm. And even one of the further reading things in this chapter 8 points to Luke 24, and just 2 verses out of this sort of story. Jesus says, "Then the Lord said to him, 'You Pharisees, you're so careful to clean the outside of the cup and the dish, but the inside, you're all filthy, full of greed and wickedness. Fools, didn't God make the inside as well as the outside?'"
Yeah, that really cracks me up, because obviously we can easily see this as a condition today. We have social media and so many other ways we can sort of peer into other people's lives, or at least what they want us to see about themselves. And yet, as a human condition, this existed back in Jesus' time too, where the Pharisees were going around saying prayers in public and sitting at the head dinners at tables and wearing special gowns and appearing very pious and authoritative to sort of the common people. But inside, Jesus is exposing their full of greed and wickedness. That's quite a bold statement to make to the religious leaders of the time.
Well, and we do find out through, again, this story, all that, basically the reason they were doing it, that question, who are you really doing it for?
Yes.
And Scott McKnight, in his commentary on the Sermon on the Mount, basically says religious actions are not for the praise of others, but they're in order to engage with God.
Right, yes.
And really, this just points to the hypocrisy.
Yeah, and I think that's something, people who follow Jesus and Christians get accused of a lot. We talk about certain ways of doing things, and we wag fingers at people for doing certain activities. We're against this, we're against that. And then when it comes down to how we actually live, and people see how we live, they say that we're hypocrites.
Yeah, and it is, I think, the idea that we see it far more important what other people see as opposed to what the actual inward reality is, which is really what God sees. And even the whole idea of blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Really just again, kind of basically such a way to look at it, and the idea of like, it's not that you've done all of the right things, or at least all the right things in view of people, but is it in there so that what's the most important thing is that you are clearly seeing God. And that is such an important thing, in our lives, that we're doing that. Derwin Gray actually writes, becoming clean and pure enough to see God for Jesus' original Jewish audience was about a unique, life-giving story with which the nation of Israel was entrusted. That one true God who longs and loves to be with his children.
So how would you sum up then what being pure in heart is?
Really, I would say it's Jesus transforming us from the inside out, so that we are able to see who he truly is, his love for us,
Yep.
and his love for others,
Yep.
which kind of goes back to other things we were saying. If we see his love for others, we will then show that love to those
Yep.
around us, because we see how much he loves them.
And I think that speaks to what we're actually trying to accomplish with this course, is that this is something where we're trying to understand what Jesus really taught so that we can allow ourselves to be transformed on the inside and not just conform to a bunch of rules. So,
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and it's really good for all those who are reading along. And if you've read the Sermon on the Mount, more of this is kind of really coming, where he will talk about the dangers of, again, the Pharisees and their want to be very public and pray for others, and really it's that idea: who are you doing this for? What is the reward?
Yep.
Is the reward what others say about you, or is the reward that you are seeing Jesus for who he truly is, and you are experiencing his love so that we can express that same love?
Okay, so if you're watching this on YouTube and you would like to enroll in the course, there's information on how to do that in the comments. And if you're actually watching it right now and doing the course, there's some discussion questions or some questions to answer that are available to you to just read through the material that's offered there, and maybe based on something we've talked about today, maybe had some ideas or thoughts how to answer the questions. There's a couple of questions there to go through and reflect on, and then obviously it always is good for learning to be able to discuss that with other people. So if you're part of a missional community, that's appropriate to talk about this in your missional community when you get together. And if you aren't, maybe just call up somebody or have a friend over for coffee and really talk about what these things really mean, so that we can process it and get it transferred kind of from our heads into our hearts. So we'll hope that you take advantage of that today.